You're listening to the Real Estate Proverbs Podcast with host Kevin Jefferson. This is the number one podcast for African American real estate professionals who are doing extraordinary things. It's time to tune in. And now, your host, the People's Lender, Kevin Jefferson.
Hello, welcome to Real Estate Proverbs Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson, and today we have a very special guest, a young lady by the name of Miss Ashley Scott. How are you this evening, Ashley?
I'm doing well this evening. Thank you for asking. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing great. Ashley Scott, tell the listeners a little bit about who you are.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Ashley Scott. I am a realtor working in the city of Stonecrest, Georgia, right outside of Metro Atlanta. I work with Keller Williams, Atlanta Metro East, and I am the co-founder and vice president of the Freedom Georgia Initiative, a movement where we're building a thriving safe haven for Black families in Wilkinson County, Georgia. And I'm a mom and a wife, and I am a passionate person about business and women in leadership. And I'm a board member for the Black Achievement Fund. I'm a Bennett Bell proud graduate of my alma mater out in Greensboro, North Carolina, Bennett College for Women. And I am from Philadelphia originally. So I have the great honor of being a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And I'm just, a really cool, down to earth young woman who loves God and who wants to do my very best to make a difference for my children, leave a legacy, something that they can be proud of, and something that they can, live the life of, that God has for us, which is a life and life more abundantly, a life where you get to love your neighbor as yourself and, have food sovereignty and all the things that are basic human dignities, the things we deserve, and so much more than that to thrive. So that's me in a nutshell, a little bit. So yes, that's my whole spiel.
That's amazing. Sounds like you have a lot going on. So Ashley, what intrigued me to reach out to you was, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, if you hadn't heard, you and 19 families came together to buy 97 acres of land in Georgia to create a town. Kind of tell me how that came about.
Absolutely, Kevin. So my good friend, our president of the Freedom Georgia Initiative, Mrs. Renee Walters, she called me up one day, and we talk every morning. This is my good friend. We were doing our affirmations, and she said, Ashley, did you see the article that I sent you? I was like, what article, lady? And she says, for this, town of Toomsboro, we can buy a town for the price of a New York apartment for 1.7 million. You could literally buy a town. And I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's go check it out. And we were interested in a town or this idea in the very first place because of all of the unrest that went on over the summer with the murder of George Floyd and the protests, and even after that with Ahmaud Arbery, and then just the shooting of Rashard Brooks. It was just so much going on in the world that it was a catalyst for us to say, hey, how can we make a difference? How can we do something? And as a real estate agent and someone who is very ingrained in a really close-knit family and community of people, we said, let's go, check it out. So I called my friend Q and my good friend Laura, and we drove down. Laura couldn't make it. Q got there late because she gets there late. That's my girl. I can talk. She came and we checked out the city of Toomsboro, and there were like 50 other Black investors and real estate agents and people who were checking out this town and really excited about it. We met the chief of police. We got to meet the neighbors, some former Congress people in the area. And we could sense that there was something special in the midst, in the future for Toomsboro. And so I was like, now these are some real old buildings. This is going to be a lot of work. It's not easy to go in and take historical buildings and renovate them and retrofit them, and having a budget to go in and fix up 46 different parcels. Like, it was a lot of different buildings. And I was like, let's go see what else might be available nearby. Like, someone might buy some of this, and if that happens and the interest continues to take place in Toomsboro, then we can potentially see some opportunity if we buy land nearby. So we checked out some other areas, and we fell in love with the piece of land that we purchased, this 96.71 acres of land that I really believe that it was divinely inspired. Like, God sent us there for such a time as this. And when we got there, I looked around, I said, look, this is awesome. We can do something with this. And Renee said the same thing. And we looked at each other and we was like, we need to buy this land. We need to invest in this with something that we could afford between the two of us as entrepreneurs, as real estate investors. But we were like, you know what? It's 96 acres of land. She was like, let's get our friends and family involved. Let's see who else might be interested in turning this land into something amazing. Because we could see the vision. We could be farming this land. We could be doing Airbnb experiences. We were in the midst of a pandemic, and RVing and outdoor activities had exploded to an all-time high. So we were just looking at all the ways that we could turn this into a really smart investment for ourselves and our families. And so I made a PowerPoint presentation, and I shared it with 20 of our friends and family. Renee had 10 friends. I had 10 friends. We invited them to a Zoom call. We had a lawyer friend of ours talk us through what it would look like in the best structure. And we got, I think, 10 people to sign up that night. And by a week later, the other 10 families had, thought it over, talked with their spouses, and came back to the table and said, I'm not interested. If I'm not interested, some people came back with, it was like, I want to do it. And I know if I'm going to do it, my best friend's going to want to do it too. So can they come invest with us? And we all decided that we wanted to invest in this opportunity to build something from the ground up for ourselves as a community, and for our children to be able to pass it down. That was our heart's desire. And we wanted to really share our story, hoping that other people in the midst of all this unrest and trauma from COVID pandemics and unjust social trauma, like, we could have a space and places that felt safe and good for us, And so that's how this all started. And when we had the blessing to be on CNN, and ABC Nightly News did a story about us, we were featured in Forbes. We had so many people who reached out just to say thank you for sharing the story and inspiring others. And a bunch of people called saying, how can I buy land? How can I join you guys? We want to live in a safe, thriving, safe haven too, that is environmentally friendly and founded and surrounded around the idea of food sovereignty and renewable energy. And so people resonated with that. And so when that happened, we decided to go get 404 more acres of land. And so we're working now to develop it with some amazing Black-owned businesses that are exceptional architects and leaders in their field. So we're going to build something amazing for us and for our allies and for anybody who has those same guiding thoughts and ideas and principles of a food sovereign community where we are being, loving and kind to one another, because that's what we need more of.
Wow. So you say you guys acquired 400 more acres. So how many acres do you have total now?
So we have just over 502 acres of land in total.
Wow. I hadn't heard that part.
Ah, yeah.
I hadn't heard that part.
We have made the announcement on New Year's Eve where
Okay.
we purchased back in October, and we never, come right out the woodworks and tell people everything right away. We waited until New Year's Eve and we made the announcement.
Got you. So let's take it back to the initial Zoom meeting
Mhm.
and the interest in you inviting friends and your best friend inviting friends. What was the culture of the call? Meaning, what were the thoughts? Like, of course, when people of our color, we don't usually do a lot of things together. So did everyone seem open? Did you have a vetting process to make sure you were getting, because this is a lifelong commitment. That's a
Yeah.
lifelong commitment. So was there a vetting process of who was a part of the team?
I think the vetting process happened years ago because these were our friends.
Okay.
These were people, and then the people who we did not know, who were not necessarily our friends, they were very close friends of our friends. And we just had that level of respect and trust for one another that if you say they're good, then they're good. And we went into it like that, like, let's make a covenant that we're going to build this community together and we're going to be righteous about it. And we came in at a level of trust that we're working together for the good of our social and economic benefit for generations to come. So when you have that kind of a covenant with somebody, we're working together for our social and economic benefit for generations to come, that was the gravity that we came into the situation with. This was an affordable investment. So it wasn't like I was asking, people to bet the cow, the farm, and their life savings by any means. But it was, a commitment to say, yes, I'm going to put down some thousands of dollars and say, yes, we are going to build a community come hell or high water, and whatever the challenges that may be. And we're going to be partners in this and build something that we know is going to create prosperity for us and our children. And so that
Wow.
was what we knew we were doing. That was the gravity we came to it with.
So how long was the process from getting the property under contract to closing on it?
For us, it was 30 days, and it's highly unusual. It's usually much longer for land deals.
Right.
But we had done, a lot of people had already vetted Toomsboro long before we did.
Okay.
And then I came along and I did my vetting. And then we, as 19 families, did our vetting. And then we were like, okay, let's put the offer in. And so when we put the offer in, we already had fairly knew what was going on with the land. And we only spent a couple of weeks. We didn't take a whole lot of time with this. It doesn't have to take a whole lot of hemming and hawing. You put your coins together, you go do what you need to do. And that's what we did. And then we literally put the day we put the contract in, if we had been a day later, we might not have gotten the land because it was a larger tract of land and someone had purchased a 30-acre parcel out of the square that we initially were going to purchase. And so that's how we ended up with the 96.71. And we literally from June 24th, I guess from June 24th to July 24th is when we closed. And we've been enjoying the land, and we've got my RV there, ATVs there. We've been studying it. We've got our farmer getting ready to lay ground cover, and we're ordering our greenhouses. Like we've been understand, because that's one thing, we're doing something a little different. It's not for us a matter of profit as much as it is a matter of purpose and passion for what we want to produce for ourselves and our families. So we are taking our time, to learn our land and to build it up slowly and in a way that is in alignment with our goals for what we want to accomplish.
Wow. So in the deal, was any of it financed or was it all money that you guys pulled together?
What we ended up doing was owner financing. And so that was very helpful for our situation, because we were able to put a big chunk of money down and then pay, monthly notes to the owner. And the owner has been a phenomenal guy. He helps us with whatever questions we may have. And we'll be able to say that we are no longer, and even in the financing, like we have the deed to the land. So we already have certain things that we're even working on with like the USDA and the farmers department. So once even in that owner financing situation, we have the deed to our land now. So people sometimes don't understand how that works. And once we have a security lien against the land that we own. And so what we have to do now is get that security lien paid off. And once we do that, we will be able to, start building our homes and everything outright. So we're really excited.
Wow, that's amazing. So how long do you think it'd take to actually get the infrastructure put in place and to be able to start building some projects?
Well, we're putting a well in our septic over the next few weeks. And we will have our topography, because we were really waiting for the foliage to die back so we could get a topographical survey, which will tell us exactly where the stormwater runoff and all those kinds of things need to happen for when we begin to start building our actual custom homes on the site. And we're putting certain infrastructure in place now, like the well and the septic, and we'll be building a farmhouse, and that'll serve as a vacation rental for a season, and the farm home for our farmer, because we do have an on-site master farmer that's a part of our collective. And so what our goal is to really be able to create food for a food insecure region, that area where we are. Even though there's a Walmart 20 minutes away, who wants to go 20 minutes away for fresh fruits and vegetables? Right. So our goal is to be able to serve this area, because a lot of times we're so busy revitalizing and, gentrification is happening in inner city urban areas, but our rural areas are not getting what they need. And so this rural area will be able to experience uptick. They already have experienced a great uptick since we've been there, just hanging out with our events and our when we come out and do our RV and our ATV thing, and people are coming to visit the land. The economy is being stimulated by that. And this rural economy, and these are, Black families and white families too. And that's one of the things I love about Wilkinson County. They are very family oriented. They don't just talk about demographics. They talk about, like, I know my neighbor because we all went to high school, middle school, and elementary school together. So like they all are really grounded in that sense of neighborly loving community, and they don't see, skin color. They just see my neighbor, and you can get somebody to actually help you when you bust a tire on the side of the road. And so being able to build strategically in this kind of a community brings value that we want to be able to hopefully replicate for other communities too, when they see what we've done here, and started with just the farming. Like the farming and that agriculture is an important part of culture. And so that's really what our goal is to take our time and build and curate a community that has a really strong culture of family and this idea of being self-sufficient and sustainable.
So will will it have its own town name, or is it still a part of a town?
Yeah, so it's an unincorporated Wilkinson County. So you know, Kevin, that in unincorporated parts, there's no jurisdiction of a town yet. So our goal is to eventually become the town or the city of Freedom, Georgia, in that unincorporated area that we've purchased land in. So Toomsboro, which is the city that initially brought us interest and brought us to the area, that'll stay Toomsboro unless they decide to, change the name. But Mayor Joyce Denson, she's a really phenomenal young lady, super engaged with the community and has lots of vision for how she wants to help people in the area. And so we want to support her as much as we can because our mailing address is Toomsboro until we do manage to become the city of freedom. But our goal is to create our own city in its own right, its own municipal corporation at the appropriate time.
Wow, that's amazing. So, in terms of the city being incorporated or its own town, and how long does that process projected to take?
So ideally, we were expecting it to be somewhere between 5 to 10 years because it takes time. We have to build up the population. We have to be able to provide certain services to the residents. We have to meet certain ratios and thresholds when it comes to what mixed use areas, commercial areas, residential areas, and industrial areas are in the community. We have to get a charter written out, hire key positions such as a city clerk and a city attorney. We need to also get that charter approved with the state to be added to the ballot. And then once that happens, the residents of that area then get the chance to vote to amend the to allow Freedom Georgia to be adopted into law, into state law. And then once that's the case, will get signed into law as a state by the governor.
Wow. So, will you guys get your own zip code?
Yeah, we could, or we might not. It just depends.
Depends. So, you would use Toomsboro zip code?
Yeah, so they may
Okay.
reapportion it, and it'll just be Toomsboro zip code, and it might say Freedom, Georgia, with the same zip code. They may give us our own. We'll have to go. I don't know all the processes on the zip codes because when I tried to get my address, I wanted a particular address, and 911 was like, "No, honey, that's not how it works. You have to get your address based on your mile marker." So I'm not
Got you.
sure what the rules are around the zip codes.
Got you. So, in terms of the Freedom Initiative, what things do you guys have in the next? You say that's a 10-year process. So, what things do you guys have planned for the next 2 to 3 years to continue to sustain the land, to sustain you guys and to build up the economy in that area?
Yeah, so we're really making partnerships right now. So joint partnerships, joint venture partnerships. We're looking for businesses that are interested in triple net leases to build their commercial spaces in Freedom, partners who want to come and farm and who have means and ability to build their homes and subdivisions. Like we want other people to come join us on the mission of creating an amazing community that is again, centered around this idea of a thriving safe haven for Black families and food sovereignty and environmental friendliness and health and well-being, because what we want to do is design a community for positive impact, right? Because for far too long, many of the urban designs and the systems that we have been living in are designed in such a way that feeds into a capitalist system and prison industrial complex and military industrial complex and things that do not serve us. So to create a community that's toppling all of those things on its head and building from an extreme paradox to build from this idea of we want to see people thrive and share in the wealth of the community and be able to live holistic and healthy lives and walk to work and have a system of economy that the money recycles back into that community with a hyper local economy that serves the residents that live there. And so by having this utopic, this idea of a utopia, it doesn't happen without partnerships. So our goal is to go out and to find those companies that are committed and saying, yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, want to create equity. Floyd McKissick had the same model for Soul City in North Carolina back in the 1970s, and it was toppled by, opposition in the political realm. But it was a sound way to create and attack that wealth gap that is affecting Black Americans disproportionately. So I want to be able to have our shot at this to say, hey, we're not building a community that's exclusively Black in any way, but that's decidedly going to have a positive effect on Black American families, the same way that HUD made suburban communities wealthy in the 1960s and 50s when they built suburbia. So it's our time in the sun. And I hope that Freedom Georgia will be a manifestation of that.
So in your journey with Freedom Georgia, have you guys now been more attentive or seeing other projects like this throughout the country? I know you have referenced Stonecrest, Georgia before, but are you starting to see more pockets of land and more families doing economic moves like this to create their own town?
Absolutely. You would be surprised. I have had the blessing and the chance to be in rooms with some great architects in our Black community. And there are many people than you realize who are coming together to build communities intentionally. Most people are a little more quiet than I am, but I wanted to inspire people. And since doing that, I have had the pleasure to teach and work with people and have new clients go out and buy land with their families and people who are working on making that happen for their communities. We have people in DC, people in Houston, people in Florida who've attended my seminars and my training who are working with realtors as we speak to buy land and build intentionally.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So in terms of the farming piece, how are you guys able to do that? I know you have a in-house farmer. Are there some type of grants or subsidies to help with that project?
Absolutely. The best resource is the USDA. Our United States Department of Agriculture has tons of money and programs and opportunities. And there's usually a lot of local company organizations that are helping with farms and farming and food sovereignty. And then as a business, you don't have to always take the approach of doing something, a grant or a nonprofit organization. You can do this profitably as a business model. Farming is how we feed America. We don't eat unless we farm. And so to take the business side of farming more seriously is something that I implore all of us to do, because we've gotten too far removed from our food sources and too dependent on other people to feed us. And we have to take that back. And that's something that I think is very important for us to really understand, that we have to be more accountable to the farming community and what it means for our communities and our culture.
Wow. So I take it you guys are going to be taking organic approach with the vegetables
And we will, yes, we will, because we are again designing our community with health outcomes in mind. So we want the best health outcomes for our residents. So if we are creating a community that's going to be farming for food sovereignty, we've got to farm the best stuff. And we want to take a very intellectual approach to this. And we know that organic food has statistical results that say, hey, you live a longer, healthier life. You are less likely to get cancer. You are more likely to have more energy and more vitality when you are eating organic foods. We need to eat more organic foods. So
right.
we want to design for the best outcomes in every area.
That's amazing. So Ashley, if somebody wants to start a project like this, what tips do you have for them in terms of what would you guys do? I guess the question is, what would you guys do differently now looking at it than you did when you first started?
I wouldn't do anything differently because I know that this was divinely ordered. So I wouldn't say I would do anything differently. But my tips are definitely to, I'm going to give you a proverb, right? You have to count up the cost. Before you start a project of this magnitude, you have to be aware that there is a lot of skin you're going to have in the game. You're going to have to put either real life money down or sweat equity, because to build a farm, to put a well in, to put septic in, to lay electricity, all of those things cost money. And it's not something that you can do easily without having a strong revenue stream to keep the project moving along. So you either need to have really good credit, or you need to have, and even with really good credit, you still have to have reserves, cash reserves. So if you're not in a really good position financially, if you haven't been fiscally responsible for the last few years, this is not the kind of project that you should take on. This is the type of project that if you and your friends and your family members, the people who are going to be on this project with you, are fiscally responsible, they've taken the time to understand the risks, they have savings, they are building something that they know is going to be a long-term project. That's my tip for you. Don't do this if you're trying to get rich fast, because this is not a get rich fast type of a project. This is a project that's based on a purpose and our principles. So my advice is to make sure that the people who come into your group and to practice collective economics with you understand the gravity of what you are doing and the challenges that will come ahead. And you have to have a great communication to overcome said challenges when they arise. You need to be able to get over all of the bumps that are going to come through wisdom and grace, because we have to be able to have grace with one another, which is something that we don't often and always do. So definitely have some cash reserves and some grace, pounds of grace.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. If someone wants to be a part of this project, how can they become a part of it?
The first thing I will say is to visit our website, which is www.freedomgeorgia.com. You got to spell Georgia out, Georgia, Georgia. And you are going to really be on our radar to be a part of this project when you do this one thing, which is become a contributing monthly member of the Black Achievement Fund. The Black Achievement Fund is our national nonprofit institutional partners. They are a 501c3 organization. Your contributions are tax deductible, and this is our fund, our budget to be able to build out the infrastructure, to meet all of our needs for our real estate projects, for health care, for renewable energy and technology integration, all of the things that we know we're going to need to do, not just in Freedom, Georgia, but in communities all across the country where we are revitalizing Black communities. This fund is our way to put our money where our mouth is. So it's $9 a month. And if you have more, please do sign up at a higher level that is comfortable for your family and your income. But be a member of the Black Achievement Fund as an individual and as a business. You can sign up for the Black List. That is our BAF business directory, and that's at www.baf.solutions. And that's not .com, not .org, but .solutions. Okay. And follow us. Stay connected with us online on Instagram, on Facebook. You can connect with me at ashleyscotthomes.com and on my Instagram at ashleyscottkw. I'm Ashley Scott KW on Facebook as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Ashley, do you guys have any events coming up anytime soon out on the property?
Yes, we have our spring festival. We're doing a music festival and a tree planting. We're going to be planting trees and jamming because that's what we do and how we roll, right? So we are going to be doing that March, I believe, either March 7th or 11th. But check out the website again at freedomgeorgia.com. That's freedomgeorgia.com. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram so that you can participate. We're going to need volunteers to help us put the trees in the ground, to plant them. We are also going to want to include you on future events because we have our Juneteenth birthday party for the Black Achievement Fund. And we have our Big Black Camp Out coming again September 3rd through the 5th. So there's always lots going on the land. So stay tuned by following us on social media everywhere, Freedom GA 2020.
Wow, that's amazing. Ashley, this was a great opportunity to learn and to teach people. I gained a lot of information out of it, and I look forward to doing a part 2 to this interview. I appreciate you coming.
You.
I appreciate you.
Happy. Thank you so much, Kevin. It was a pleasure.
All right. I appreciate you guys for all that you're doing for the community and being an example. And thanks for responding to my messages. I appreciate it. I don't take it lightly. I was actually excited when you said schedule me. I was like, yes. But I definitely look forward to doing some things with you guys and checking out your initiative and bringing my family to visit the land so my boys and I and my wife can get a sense of community.
Yes.
Thanks for all that you do, and have a good one.
Thank you. Have a good one. I can't wait to see you in freedom.
Amen.